Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So, change of scenery, I thought it'd be kind of cool that you could, potentially see my bookshelf a little more. I have to actually rearrange the Funko Pops. I did dust the other day. And also I'm afraid if I sit where I normally sit, I was gonna get smacked in the face by a curtain. It's getting really windy. I think it's supposed to rain later or something. I don't know. Basically, I just don't want to get smacked in the face by the curtains. You might see them over whichever, this direction, whatever. You might see them. Just, one of those things. But anyways, welcome back. Sorry it's been a while. I had a family vacation, but the Floridians are now back in their swamp homeland, so now we can go back to our regularly scheduled videos. Well, as regularly scheduled as is with me. So today we're gonna review Industrial Magic. I just went through Bitten, and then I keep wanting to say Dime Store Magic, and then I always never call it Industrial Magic. But we're gonna be doing Industrial Magic today. There's something on my laptop keys. I'll have to look at that later. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna be reviewing Industrial Magic today. But before we get started, if you guys are new, hit follow. If you guys like these books, let me know. I definitely enjoy talking with you guys about these books. Because it just makes me happy that people actually know what these are, and it's not just some weird niche thing like me being obsessed with Starsky and Hutch. So, it's very nice to actually talk with people who've read the books. But yeah, like, subscribe, say hi, all the, I guess, usual things YouTubers say to do. Yeah, and you guys know the drill. Off the cuff, general synopsis. Then we talk about what I liked about it, what I didn't, characters, and then I guess my overall thoughts. And then we end the video. The normal thing. Oh, I should get Industrial Magic off the shelf, shouldn't I? I just rearranged it. So, this is Industrial Magic. I just rearranged it. I had a Comey Can't Communicate over here, and then I swapped it over to a bookshelf over there. Technically over there for you guys watching on YouTube because this camera's inverted. And I just wanted more space over here, so it's probably gonna get moved around again, but I have to go through my bookshelf anyways. But anyway, Industrial Magic. So, Industrial Magic takes place, I think, like 4 or 5 months after Dime Store Magic. One of the things that kind of caught me off guard, and I think it's just because, for me, as a person, it's been so long. They're, for the most part, they're making, not like a big deal, but they're making like a big deal about like, oh, this takes place like a month after 9/11. Now, I don't know when this book came out specifically, because I suck at trying to find years for these things. But yeah, it was weird when they're like, when Paige was like, oh yeah, I understand not wanting to fly because of what happened, or flights were cheap, or the airport wasn't crowded because of what happened. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that did happen. And not that I forget that it happens, but for me, where Paige is probably like, what, 23? Like early 20s. For her in 2001, I was 1, so it was just very strange to, I guess, read that. I'm like, oh yeah. There's been a couple of times these books have put me in my place of like, what I know is normal, and when these books takes place, it's not normal. Like, I remember reading Bitten, and now knowing Bitten set in 1999, I thought it was like at least set in like 2000, 2001. I still would have applied, but Erland is describing Clay's room, and it's like, oh, his is the only room with like a TV, and he has like the most up-to-date like TV and VCR, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Like, I know these books are old, but it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, it's that old. But yeah, so I digress. So this takes place in like 4 or 5 months after Dime Store Magic, so now it's Paige and Savannah, and again, Paige is the narrator for this book, and it's Paige, Savannah, and Lucas sitting in this like small apartment in Portland, Oregon. Paige is kind of a little down with life, and she's happy because she has Lucas. Savannah's safe, loving school, but the big thing that she's struggling with right now, like, really, is that, she wants a coven. And she feels as if, like, you know, because basically it was her mother's wish for her to lead this witch of cut, like, be the coven leader of, like, witches. And now she's been kicked out of it. She's trying to make a coven, and these witches are like, well, we understand, and we know your mother, so it's not like we know you're, like, a bad person, but our big deal is that, you know, you're hanging around a sorcerer. And so she's just having a tough time trying to make a coven, and, you know, she's like, I'm not gonna, like, leave Lucas for it, because it's not his fault. They're just, you know, I think as Eve puts it in Haunted, when talking to a witch, the sorcerer and witch war. Oh, hey, look, there's the curtain. The sorcerer coven war is gonna go on till the end of time, probably. So, you know, she's like, I want open-minded people and all this, at least from what I remember. But it's just the prologue. It's kind of like the introduction to kind of like her character stuff, but like I said, we'll get to that. Anyways, Lucas is away, comes back and leaves because he's a pro bono lawyer. And at some point, his father, Benencio, I don't know. I call him Lucas's dad. We can also call him Benny for short, whichever you prefer. But anyway, Lucas's dad comes in, and he's like, I have a job for Lucas. And he knows about Paige. I mean, like, it's not like he doesn't. Like, the Cortez Cabal, and this book focuses heavily on the Cabals, but Lucas is like his pride and joy son, so it's very much, he's always, like, learning about him and keeping tabs on him. And he comes and has a job. Paige is like, I'm not talking to you unless Lucas is here. And, you know, fair enough. And then Lucas comes back. They talk with his dad. And, you know, he has a job. And the job essentially is that Cabal kids are getting killed. No one knows who's doing it. No one knows why. All I know is that a bunch of kids are getting killed and they need to be stopped. Whoever it is. So Lucas would say no, but because he's dating Paige, now there's this conflict of interest, so they go down to Miami. They say no in person, because he doesn't want, you know, people to think, yeah, because it's like his sorcerers, witches. He's afraid that people are going to think, I said no because of Paige, and she coerced me, saying no, which isn't the case whatsoever. This book also focuses a lot, too, on, like, Lucas and his dad, and how they kind of have this fractured relationship. But that's just because Lucas resents everything the Cabal is, essentially. But while they're in Florida, after they say no, unfortunately tragedy strikes. And the first kid that we know of, I mean, there's more, but the one we know of and the one we're connected to is Dana MacArthur. She's the one in the prologue. And we'll get back to her. But while they're there, kids get killed. Another kid goes missing, and then they later find his dead body. So now Paige has said, all right, fine. We will help find this kid. We will help find who's killing the kids, to basically reassure the dad of the kid who died. To, you know, because there's like this whole hierarchy of like A, B, you'll get investigations, but if you're C or under, you won't get essentially investigations for these things, like the murders. So weird system, but okay. So now they're investigating these people, but because Cabal kids are getting killed, now it's like, oh shit, alright, we gotta protect Savannah. She is a Cabal kid, so they bring Savannah to Miami, but then Paige brings in Clay and Elena, which was really fun to see them in the book, to, you know, watch Clay, to watch Savannah. And once they leave and they go off and do their thing, now Paige is investigating things. So their first kind of big break in the case, you also actually do see Adam too in this book as well, but the first big like break in the case is this druid guy who used to work, because they're like, well, alright, it's Cabal kids, maybe it's like a disgruntled employee. And they do some research and they find out that there's like 3 like Cabal kind of like limited time employees that didn't get full time, and one of them happened to had the names of all these Cabal children. Now there's 4 Cabals. It's I think the Boyds, the St. Clouds, Cortez, and then the Nast. And then the Nast is the Nasts are Savannah's family. So they figure that out. They go to try and interrogate the guy, but shit kind of goes awry. Paige gets injured, and they do end up capturing the guy. Very like high tech security, but they do catch him. Unfortunately, the Cabal leaders kill him because they think he's the one that's doing it, when he's not. Because outside, after the court hearing, another person gets killed, and another kid gets killed. And so they go to try to talk to him, and he's a druid, which I think is super cool. The druids are in there. I mean, I play D&D and Baldur's Gate, so druids are like my thing. I love druids. Granted, they're not shape-shifting druids, but the fact that they're druids in this I thought was really cool. But they try to talk to him, but his druidic spirit, I can't remember what the druid was. I can't remember. Comes up and talks for them, and essentially the druid says, whoever is doing this, and I can't remember specifically if they say it's a supernatural being or if it's a human, because I know it's not. It's a vampire, the one that's doing it. But, they say, hey, this is the guy who's doing it. He sold the information, and he knew he was fucked. and this is just what happens. So they find this out, and then they're like, okay, well, if it's not, it's a supernatural being. I can't really remember what the spirit says, but they're like, okay, well, what do we do with this information? A little important side note, I realized I skipped a whole bunch of stuff, is Paige is investigating too, and this is also starts it. This is also where you meet Jamie Vegas. And you meet Jamie in the last book. I thought she was going to be super annoying, but she's actually turns out to be really funny. But she has a favor for Lucas, and, she meets her and then Paige meets her. And then together they talk to Dana MacArthur, and this is where they find out the crucial information of the guy who who strangled Dana. She was in a coma, but she did pass over, unfortunately. She says Nasha. And that's where they kind of lead to, like, druidic, like, kind of like demons or spirits or like gods, essentially, which leads to Weber. Their next kind of big clue is they go to the bookstore, and because I think they get done doing something, and then they're like, oh hey, let's go, and I wonder if they have Christine, which is a book by Stephen King, which I'm sure all of you already know. But it's like, let's go see her. I've wanted to read Christine. And while they're in there, there's like this like poltergeist that's haunting Paige. Or not a poltergeist, but there's like this demon haunting Paige. Not Paige, Jamie, or ghost, whatever. I'm tired. I work today. But there's this ghost throwing books at Paige and Jamie. And then the book Salem's Lot comes out, which is a short story by Stephen King as well. Which, if you guys have not seen the movie, I recommend the 1979 one with David Soul in it, but I'm also very partial to that one because it's David Soul and it's Hutch. But anyway, that has to do with vampires. So they're thinking, alright, Nasha, alright, vampires, which actually it's kind of funny because they're like, this book was really disappointing. I thought it would be about witches, but it's about vampires. So now they know it's a vampire. And now they've come to the conclusion that this ghost that is haunting, what's her face? Jamie is they think it's a vampire, which they find weird because when vampires die, they just kind of blip out of existence. Like, it's not like other ones that have souls, like they just kind of blip out of existence, so they think it's weird. And then they call Cassandra, and then Cassandra comes in, and then through Cassandra and other vampires, you also see Aaron that was in he was in like towards like the last couple pages of Stolen. You find out that the one killing these kids is Edward. Now, Edward was always accompanied by this other vampire, Natasha, and they returned around the same time, and then once they kind of met, they had been together, and it wasn't just for like 50 plus 100 years, it was like 200, 300 years. I could be overestimating those numbers, but my point is, it was a very long time that these two were together. But they were also known as questers, so vampires in this world don't live forever. They just don't. So they live for like a good, like maybe like 500 years, we'll say, as a guess, I guess like a guesstimation. But after that, they die. And the older you get, the like less sleep you have, which is kind of what Cassandra's going to. And another little interesting tidbit is that Cassandra, with the vampire specifically, there's always two, like, vampire, like, liaisons. Like, because the older you get, the more you don't care, so you always have to have, like, a younger vampire kind of watch over things, and Cassandra's always been, like, that vampire person, but another one hasn't joined. So essentially, until the werewolves joined this council, the council really was kind of a really shitty council. And I don't mean that badly. But they were questers. They were using, like, human bodies to try and live, like, forever, like a traditional vampire would. And now we come to the real crux of the problem. One of the cabals, I believe it was the St. Clouds, said, hey, we want to, because they lived in Ohio. So the St. Cloud cabals wanted to, like, make a base in Ohio. Now, the issue is they always kind of, like, look at the area, like, as if there's, like, a heavy population of, like, this or that, or other, like, cabals, so they're not going to really settle into it. And in Ohio, where these vampires were, and they wanted to settle, it was like, okay, well, we have to do something about these two stupid vampires, and they were going after them, and they were really good at evading them for a while. And then they also sought out the other cabals as, like, protection to not get killed from the St. Cloud cabal. Now, this all came crumbling and caused all this horse shit to happen was Natasha got her head beheaded by one of the cabals, and they just thought that, what's-his-face, Edward was gonna back off and just kind of cower in a corner like, oh, I lost love of my life. And that's not what happened. So now, out of revenge for all of them, he's killing, like, all these cabal children to make them pay, and he's honestly going until he dies. Because, you know, when vampires die, again, they kind of go into oblivion. Like, no one knows where they go. And they see someone, and they're like, oh, here he is, and then they find out that the next target is Lucas. And they're in this, like, alleyway. He corners Lucas and Paige. He shoots Lucas, and then this portal opens up, and then him and Paige fall through it. Now, the ghost haunting Jamie, I don't believe was Natasha. I'm not sure. I read somewhere that it was actually Leah being a pain in the ass and spiteful that she lost to Paige. But again, I'm not too sure. So until then, we're gonna say it's Natasha. So this portal opens. Now they're in the afterlife, and all of a sudden now, it's like, we get to meet Eve, and you also hear Kristoff in the background. And, which is actually really fun to see, honestly. And the ghost world is actually very interesting, but we'll get more into that when I finish up Haunted. But, so now, they're in the ghost world, and Lucas is dead, like, he actually died, but Paige is like, I'm not leaving without Lucas, so either take us both, or I'm staying here with him. And the fates, and then Eve says, if I will do you a favor if you let both of them leave. And so they leave. And then now we get to another problem, which is, now that this portal's been opened, and if the portal's opened, you can actually go back into it, but to get back into it, you need to do, like, this ritual thing with the blood of either a person who was in it or family relatives. So in this case, it'd be Paige or Lucas, or it's gonna be Lucas's dad. And then everyone knows about this ritual, and everyone's trying to protect each other, and it does not work. But they essentially come up with this plan, because now the other important thing too is Edward now thinks this is Natasha, and now he thinks there's an afterlife. So now he's like, okay, I want to be with Natasha, and if I can go be with her, right, I can. But now he has to open up this portal to go into it. And in order to do that, again, he has to kidnap one of these people. So now comes the fun part of, now we get the reinforcements. So now Jeremy, Savannah, Clay, and Elena all come up to come back to Miami. Well, Jeremy's now coming to Miami. But, you know, Paige and Lucas, I'm pretty sure we're gone for maybe 2 days, max, maybe. So they're worried, and then that's why they all drive down. And again, more problems. So now there's this big charity gala. They figure Edward's gonna strike, and He does, but I'm not sure if I think both Lucas and Benicio go to him, essentially, because they're like, no, kill me, kill me. One of the funnier things, though, I thought, was Clay and Elena come up, and Jeremy does too, and Jamie's like, hey, this guy's hot, and Paige is like, oh yeah, no, that's Clay, he's taken, and she's like, no, Jeremy's hot, which is just kind of funny, a little funny detail, which I think is kind of cool. But now we come to like the final act where now he's trying to do like this ritual thing. Jamie's stalling for people. They have this plan, and in the end, he gets banished and killed. And we don't know what happens to vampires, but it's, definitely something. But they do this gala, they dance, and yeah, it was good. It was probably a really crappy description, but I'm tired and I really just want to get this review out to you guys. And again, I always talk about the synopsis of it. But I did like the book. I mean, it did raise a lot of really, like, fun questions. Like, from the get-go, you can tell Lucas wants something more with Paige. You can. It's like, written all over his face. And it's like, I wish I had that. But, you can tell, like, he wants more with her, and he doesn't want to be just whatever they are now. He has, like, this house for her, and Benicio kind of ruins it, and then she's like, we'll talk about this later, whatever, and then she goes through the portal, and it's like, alright, now you know you're gonna be staying, now you kind of know you're stuck with Lucas. I will say the one thing I was kind of sad that this didn't happen, is, think back to, like, Dime Store Magic. So in Dime Store Magic, at the end of the book, Savannah kind of got a moment with her mother, though it was Paige. She thought it was her mother, and she thought, she kind of got to say her final goodbye to her mother. And again, it was a really sweet moment. I do kind of wish that Paige had gotten that with this book. Like, again, Jamie Vegas is a necromancer, so she can talk to the dead, and one of the funnier things, too, with Jamie Vegas is that, she points out, like, oh yeah, no, ghosts talk to me, but I give him nice, polite things, like, he misses you and loves you and wants you to move on, when the ghost is really saying, that bitch should fucking die, she destroyed my car or something, which was kind of funny, because I'm sure, if you guys believe in, like, mediums and stuff, I'm sure they deal with that on the basis of it, or at least some of them do, and I just think it's funny. But the one thing I just wish did happen was that Paige kind of got a moment to say it, kind of got a moment to talk to her mother. Even in the ghost world, you see Eve, and Kristoff is, like, in another layer. Well, kind of another layer. It was kind of confusing, but Kristoff was there. Only Eve could talk to him. But you see Eve, and it's like, how come... And I guess it makes sense for it to be Eve in that regard, but I just kind of wish Paige kind of got this moment with her mom, like, to actually say goodbye. I mean... Not even Elena got to say goodbye. And I just... And granted, not that it really matters that Elena didn't say goodbye. I just wish Paige got a moment to say goodbye. But, I digress. But overall, I think that was my only, like, problem with the book, was that aspect of it. And, you see, I had, like, so many moments, and I was actually even hoping that, like, oh, maybe the ghost that's haunting, Jamie was her mother, and it didn't make sense with how violent the ghost was being, but even still, was like, oh, maybe that's her mother, and again, just didn't happen, unfortunately. But overall, still a good book. I definitely like the character, because like I said, Lucas wants something more with Paige, and he also kind of wants her help more on cases, and he just doesn't know how to approach it. Like, he's very, like, awkward about that. Like, he's like a lawyer through and through, but when it comes to, like, Paige, he can be very awkward sometimes. So by the end of the book, though, Paige does kind of realize that she doesn't need to be what her mother wanted her to be. She can be her own person, and she ends up joining Lucas, like, in a private investigation business or whatever it is that they end up doing, and then they buy, like, this, like, nice house in Oregon. Again, I don't know where it is yet, but it was just it was nice to kind of see like a nice little conclusion to that, and like I think it's also like a nice message. Like even though like your parents might say, "Oh, we want you to do this," you don't have to do it. So I thought that was nice. Seeing Clay and Elaine again was like super cool. You definitely see how like their relationship has changed, but how Clay is still Clay, and I think it's great. It's also great how because Clay like absolutely or Savannah absolutely like loves Clay, and Clay and Lucas are like great friends as well. Jamie was a funny character too. Definitely one of the more I don't know, like she was a lot better than I expected. Like I guess I just thought she was gonna be really, really annoying when she's just I don't know, she's funny. I guess it's like the best way to word it. She's just kind of funny. But yeah. You know, and I guess talking about the villains real quick before we wrap it up here, because I guys want to talk about like more about like the core characters, but actually no, Benicio was really funny too, and how Lucas and him kind of mended their relationship, because like I said, Paige does get injured, and she's like in and out of like I think like conscious and gets surgery and like on her stomach area and stitches. He blames Lucas's dad because Lucas blames his dad because Lucas thinks, oh, you went after Paige because you don't like them dating a witch. When I think that's further from the truth. He just wants his son to be happy, and I still don't understand why Lucas is like the sole heir to the Cortez cabal. I don't get it, but I think it's because maybe he just like all the other sons kind of like while they love their dad, they might like the money more, and Lucas is just like, I like my dad, I just don't like what he does. I don't know, but their mended relationship I thought was quite good. And you know, like it's like, all right, well, you know, maybe I'll still go after the Cortez cabals or the cabals, but I won't hate you as much. So that was kind of nice. But yeah, I do feel bad for Edward because he did like lose love of his life. But I mean, at the same point, they were causing havoc, and you shouldn't have killed the kids. But I don't know. Just one of those things where it's just, alright. It was an interesting take, though. It was definitely interesting. Like, I guess it was interesting to see it play out. And I forget, there's also a moment where it's like there's no blood, so, you know, there's like no blood in one of the scenes. So I think that's kind of like also gives away like vampires. I think it's afterwards, but I don't know actually how many kids got killed. I know one of them gets killed in broad daylight, though. I remember that. But overall, I thought the book was really good. Like I said, I only had that one grape, but like I said, it ain't the end of the world, realistically. Who knows? Maybe in later books she kind of gets that like cathartic moment of saying goodbye to her mom. But again, I don't know. But yeah, so this one was a little bit rambly. I have been practicing it. It's just today at work was a little busy, so I wasn't able to fully focus on practicing it today. But again, synopsises are always hard because I never know what's important to say and what is not important to say. But I always like to give like a brief description of like how I saw the events. So, but you know, well, thanks. Anyways, guys, if you liked what you see, hit follow. Let me know, guys, if you've read this one. Let me know your thoughts on it. I mean, I love talking about this stuff with you guys, so let me know what you guys think about it. And yeah, we're gonna end the video here. Have a fantastic night, guys. We will see you all later. I'm like halfway through Haunted right now, so we'll see what happens. I should be finishing with that relatively soon, but it'll be a while. But anyway, have a fantastic night. We will see you all later, and yeah, peace out, guys.